have you ever been too deep into the narrative with zombies?
I enjoy the ride. When I first got into zombies, I binged all of Johnny J25's content, just all of his videos, diving into the storyline. So I feel like I kind of understand the OG storyline, probably more than most people, but that's not saying much because the OG storyline is crazy.
Oh yeah. Oh
Um,
yeah.
but this new storyline, especially once they added in a set crew of characters with Terminus, I was like, oh my goodness, this is awesome. Like playing Terminus even recently, I was like, dude, these voice lines, these characters, the end cutscene where they're talking and reacting to each other, I was like, oh, I'm eating this up. In the Tomb, I think we all know with the lackluster, no intro and the quiet outro, it's kind of like, okay. But I
Yeah.
really like the pieces that are in play. I like that we're diving into the Vanguard area and we're not shying away from that because people didn't like it. No, that's a part of the history. We're going to bring Cortifex in, we're going to bring Prima Materia in, and something that is stupid that's probably not a big deal, but thinking about Black Ops 4, I'm a huge Black Ops 4 fan. It's one of my top 2 favorite zombies games, which I know is controversial, but I love chaos a lot, and I think those are the best maps in
Yes.
Black Ops 4.
Oh
And I
yeah.
think that's one of the best stories they've done. Like they've set it up, it's really logical, it makes sense. And so to bring those back is really cool. But then it clicked for me. I was like, oh, they're bringing it back because they want to bring it back. Like the writers themselves are like, no, we want to explore this, which like thinking about them getting excited about this and trying to poke it in here, I think is just really fun. And I think they've got something in mind and they want to go somewhere. And I think that's what Zombies needs right now is like an end game kind of like, hey, what is this all for? Hey, let's get to the mansion. Let's have Sam betray us. Let's open up the dark ether. Let's, Panos is probably going to be there because we're going back to Liberty Falls and he
Yeah.
just walked out of Liberty Falls.
Yeah.
So like, is he going to be with us, against us? He just killed the security team. Like, I don't know. I like the pieces that are being set. I just hope more action happens. I hope we see more things actually take place and happen as opposed to just at the beginning and at the end of the game. So
I agree.
we'll
man.
see.
I
We'll see.
agree. I think the middle really matters. But no, go ahead, Fajori. Go before I go.
I was gonna say, I think the Tomb outro cutscene, I think they were sort of ahead of the curve when it comes to those interruptive ads because there was a lot of dead space.
Yeah.
There was a lot of dead space when it came to that cutscene.
That's what I'll do. I'll complete the map and I'll just leave the cutscene in there and I'll put all the ads there.
There you go. Well, yeah, we solved it. We solved it. But
You figured it out.
yeah, I think with the Tomb, there was a lot of possibilities for them to expand more on chaos stuff, and I feel like they just didn't.
Yep.
And that has me a lot. That has me a little worried for what could come next. When it comes to tying up storylines, or maybe bringing in more previous things from Chaos or from Vanguard. I hope they follow up on a lot of this stuff because the Tomb, we all know, didn't really do a good job at that. I feel like a lot of the intel. I read through a lot of the intel, didn't really expand on anything because I was a big big Chaos fan too. I really like 9, and I didn't mind Ancient Evil, and Voyage of Despair definitely is a very different and hard experience, but I still respect it for what it is. But
Yeah.
Dead of the Night is obviously peak. Hopefully we see some sort of some similarities there with this mansion and Dead of the Night. Maybe we get a night setting again. Yeah, there's so many possibilities. Hopefully they connect all of them together, and really build on these storylines that they've sort of that they've really alluded to. Chaos, Richtofen, Panos. There's a lot to work with, and I think they just need to just pick one of them.
Yeah.
Don't even if it's too much to focus on all of them, then just pick one of them and make it really good. Don't juggle like 18 different storylines and no one really knows what's going on.
All these characters.
I think that's my only worry is that or maybe merge them all into one. They all sort of connect each other in some way, which we've yet to sort of see. Hopefully there's a lot more connections and everything going into Mansion, which there should be, because we should see the reveal and return of the director Richtofen with that map. I'd assume anyway. So who knows what they're gonna do with that.
I think the in-game story that they have with the brothers in Citadel and Sir Archibald in the Tomb, I think those are fun and I love those stories, but it's almost like a distraction from the big story,
The overarching story. Yeah.
It took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize that the mimic that we get in round 8 on the Tomb is the mimic at the end that killed Archibald, and that's his monocle. It took me a while to figure that out.
Well,
But like when I did, I was like, "Oh, that's genius!" I thought he was just talking to us the whole time. No, we were literally walking through his past steps, and so like that sort of lore is huge for anything going in the future. Because then we could follow Richtofen's steps. Richtofen could follow someone else's steps, like Weaver steps in the past, and I like the fun of that, but going into the tomb, it's like, okay, cool, Archibald's fun, but I'd rather hear more about our characters. I'd rather hear more about what they think about Richtofen and all this. At the end of Terminus, Weaver goes, I just need to know where Richtofen is, or something like that. And then Sam goes, I don't know where he's at, but he was going after this. So if she does a heel turn and like becomes a bad guy, that's going to be a really cool foreshadowing of like, hey, bring me the Sentinel artifact and we might find Richtofen together. I don't know where he's at, So I like the big overarching story, even though I appreciate the little tiny stories too.
It really seems like we have like writers are like putting the story in all these really promising directions. They just don't have this like psycho mega zombies fan that's like weaving it together with a bow.
Yeah.
And it felt like you had that the last couple, or pretty much every recent zombie iteration. And it's almost like so many threads that were set up at the end of Cold War have yet to even be followed up on a little bit. I mean, quick examples. Project Janus board of directors. What's another one? Experigamos and more of the elder gods that Vanguard kind of touched on, but not really. And all these different things. It almost does feel like a distraction in a way to see like all these newer characters introduced and new side plots. And it's like, well, that won't matter in the next map. What about the overarching plot? Why is the intel not covering that? We got less intel on BO6 because we have a set crew now, but the set crew isn't talking. So it's like, what does that mean? Right. And so the ending of BO6 Zombies narratively could be the best ending of all time. No matter what, though, it'll still end up looking like, okay, the game started fantastic, ended fantastic. Why was the middle just complete, like almost filler? Where was the story there? Like you're essentially playing the game to just see the intro and the outro, but the DLC season didn't have much substance. And then what? You have to wait how many years for the follow-up. Like it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate to see that. Especially with
I'm
Chaos.
sure it's because of the actor strike and all that stuff.
Sure.
To it, but
right. And then that again goes into a discussion like, okay, here's like a downside of AI even being a topic of discussion because people quitting because of it or not working because of it. It's like, God damn it, man. Like you can never win, but
everyone's losing.
Everyone's losing in that way. Yeah. And it's like Citadel and the Tomb had, I think, a great opportunity to have crazy intros. I mean, the Citadel had one, but crazier intros. They maybe tie chaos more together. Bigger outros to where you get some more. I think that the cinematic cutscenes had opportunities to at least continue that overarching story a little bit more. If the main crew dialogue wasn't going to do it, so I'm again cautiously optimistic about what Mansion will offer story wise, but I'm sure gameplay wise we'll still be looking at some promising updates of double tap sin, Mark II variants, who knows what else. But again, it kind of when we get to Mansion, it's going to remind me like, okay, Cold War ended on a cliffhanger with the director, Richtofen. Then he gets sidelined within the launch window of the game, and we have to wait till the end of the game. He gets teased at the start, and then he's sidelined the whole game. And then, okay, luckily there's another Black Ops coming in a few months, apparently, so I guess that makes up for it. But, like, we had to wait a whole game to get back to back to Richtofen. Like, I don't know, man. That's odd, especially there's only 2 maps left.
When you think about Modern Warfare Zombies intro, where all these people are dead, it's like, that hasn't even been, like, mentioned ever, And it's especially cool because at the end of the Forsaken's like, do you want to see what happens if you defeat me? And it's all of them dead. So it's like, there's clearly something going to happen. And we're close to Modern Warfare Zombies where Gray was talking to Jansen like, hey, I had you, you're this experiment, whatever. Like, there's something happening at the end of Black Ops 6 or this timeline event that's should be huge, I hope.
I'd hope so. I think it's going to be a cop-out. They're just going to be like, hey, we changed the timeline, done. There's going to pivot. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Even something interesting about that MWZ ending the MWZ starting or technically ending for Black Ops 6 potentially. Yeah. It's there's no Maya there. It's Strauss that is at that table, I believe. And,
correct.
It's Strauss, Carver, Gray, and Weaver. So what happened to Maya? Like where that's many years after. Is she still alive? Did she die? Who knows what's going on with that? I feel like Maya has also had a very strong start to her character, but then they kind of just like axed her entire storyline in Citadel. and now she kind of just like piggybacked off of like, oh, I kind of hate Richtofen now too. So I don't know. I think Maya's cool, but I think they should have held off a little bit on her revenge arc on that, because
It's over.
that felt a little bit fast for me. And then obviously the Tomb had little to no story build for anyone. So
Right.
yeah, it's gonna
Has
be.
Carver spoke a word since like Terminus, or
They don't make them like they used to.
yeah, it's just, yeah, man. I'm just questioning like what happened with the narrative, really, because I also mentioned, I don't know if you
Mhm.
played the campaign, but Black Ops 6 campaign is like some of the strongest gameplay out of any campaign
Mhm.
ever, and the story just kind of starts to tell its own narrative and like branches off
Yeah.
of what you thought the game was going to be about, and then it just
Yeah.
abruptly ends, and it's like, okay, we're going to Avalon, and then that's also not happening for Warzone, so we're like, okay,
Right.
we're going to MP maps in Avalon, okay, and then that
These
post launch
poor
story,
writers.
yeah, and then that post launch story is not even really covering anything with any of the Black Ops characters, just Savati. So I'm like,
Yeah.
what? I'm like, hold on, maybe the narrative team's busy with BO7 real quick, and Raven's also working on that campaign, so they can't work on
Yep.
Warzone, and that explains the other issues. Is it all connected? I'm like, I'm going schizo here. Like, what is it all like? What is happening with the narrative? I just
Right.
don't get it. Every mode is suffering from narrative, and like, I don't
Mhm.
I don't get it, man.
I was thinking about that, where it's like, gameplay's gameplay. Like, campaign can have completely different gameplay from one mission to the next, and no one really cares because it's a video game. Same thing with zombies. Gameplay could be different here and there, and it's a game, so it makes sense. But the story is something that they want in everything. Now, even multiplayer and Warzone and all this stuff.
Mhm.
So you've got to somehow, and now everything's connected, even though I don't believe that. Zombies is still separate in my brain.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
They're trying to make everything at least make some logical sense. So I can't imagine being a writer being like, okay, so we changed up this gameplay mechanic. Okay, now we're going to this map. Okay, like it changes your entire plot. It changes your entire story. So of course it feels weird and awkward because plans change and everything. So I couldn't imagine. Like I have so much respect for writers. I don't know a thing about writing, so I'm not like it's a daunting task.
I believe it. I believe it. It's again, it confused us a few months ago when the rumor came out that, oh, Avalon's actually the Warzone map for Black Ops 7. And I'm like, so
Mhm.
is that game gonna cover like 2030 Avalon? Because we're in the 90s right now. And so I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I'm just, oh man,
Mhm.
it's a big question mark, dude, with story. And that's unfortunate,
Yeah.
because like MW2, for example, that campaign was fucking brilliant. Like, I'm talking
Mhm.
story wise too. MW3's campaign, very poorly received for many reasons: gameplay, repetition,
Mhm.
story, whatever. And then that game had no post-launch story at all either.
No.
Whereas Cold War, I don't know if you've seen the Cold War post-launch cutscenes. That's the gold
Mhm.
standard. That's the gold standard,
yeah.
baby. You're looking at
Yeah.
the cutscenes covering the new operators for the season, the new MP maps, the new weapons, connecting to Warzone at the same time. Like, that was the absolute best way to do a post-launch narrative for a Call of Duty.
Oh yeah.
Um,
I also think when it comes to at least operators and zombies, I could tell like at the start of Terminus they really fleshed out those characters. I think Terminus is the best those characters have ever been. But then when we get to the Tomb and Citadel, we have like Archibald talking to us, and then we have Dr. Kraft talking to us, and it's like they're obviously doing that in my eyes, so that way if someone just picks a random operator, they still get the story.
yes.
Meanwhile, I'd rather just have them all do the story of just the set crew. And like if you pick a non-canon operator, have a little pop-up that says, hey, you have a non-canon operator, you're not going to get all the story dialogue. Cool, whatever. But like if you look at the operator list, like there's like 20 or 30 of them. And if you think, okay, all zombies characters need to have dialogue, and now with the controversies with the same dialogue, they need to have unique dialogue. That's just so much for the writers to do, and so much like that's why I'm like, just keep it to the base set crew and then let the operators be operators, and have their flat lines or whatever.